Hello again, fellow Indians, and welcome to another episode of Let's React to the soundtrack of Epic the Musical. I am reacting to this blindly, joined here by my good friend Alexandra, who first introduced me to this musical in the first place. We are about to react to the fifth saga, which is the Underworld saga, and to my understanding, this is the saga that closes the first act. So, why don't you take it away, Alexandra?
All right. So we are reacting to the first song of the Underworld saga called The Underworld.
Nice.
And this is by Clover.
Okay.
Let's go.
We got some flashes from Cersei as well.
Oh
Didn't see a warning for that one.
no.
Cersei's instructions were clear. No matter what we hear, full speed ahead until we find the prophet. My comrades, this land confuses your mind. So no matter who we find, full speed ahead until we find the prophet. Good. All I hear are screams. Every time I dare to close my eyes, I no longer dream. Only nightmares of those who've died. Nothing's what it seems. Nothing's what it seems. And here in the underworld, the past seems close behind. This land confuses your mind. When does a man become a monster? 558 men who died under your command. Captain, 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 why would you let the Cyclops live when ruthlessness is mercy? All I hear are screams. Every time I dare to close my eyes, I no longer dream. Only nightmares of those who died. Nothing's what it seems. Nothing's what it seems. But in the underworld, the past seems close behind. I keep thinking of the infant from that night. I keep thinking of the infant from that night.
This life is amazing when you greet it with open arms. Whatever we face, we'll be fine if we're leading from the heart. No matter the place where we can light up the world, here's how to start. Greet the world with open arms. Greet the world with open arms.
That voice. It can't be. Mom?
Odysseus, when you come home, I'll be waiting. Even if you're the last thing I see, I'll be
I'm right here, Mom. Can't you see? I'm waiting. I took too long
I'll always love you.
and ventured too
I'll stay in
far
your heart.
while you were
Waiting,
Bye, Mom. All I hear are screams. Every time I dare to close my eyes, I no longer dream. Only nightmares of those who died. Nothing's what it seems. But in the underworld, your past is always close behind. Your past is always close behind. Down in the underworld.
So,
Obviously, it feels like this is the last saga, last saga in the act, because it echoes back to the previous songs throughout the saga. So it's sort of like doing a review or a summary of the past, which is essentially the last part of that song, which is, this, in the underworld, your past comes back in many
the
ways to
past
haunt
is
you again.
always close behind.
The
Yeah.
Yeah, the past is always close behind, and in this way, and in this particular situation, it's haunting. The past is haunting him again, especially when he gets to the souls of all the men that died and were like blaming him for their death, which I think is very unfair too, because it's like, dude, the dude wasn't the one who killed you all. Poseidon killed you all, and yeah, he might have made the wrong call, but I guarantee you, if any one of those men were put in the same situation as him, they would be probably making a lot of mistakes as well, if not more, maybe more mistakes. So I mean, they chose to follow him, you know. They chose to. I don't think any of them decided to come on this journey against their will. So and they went to this journey knowing he was the one who was leading them and making the call. So it's not his responsibility that all of them died, because it's like, you know what you signed up for, or at least you should have. You can't just blame everything on the person who is just trying his best to call the shots. And at some point, some of that blame has to be shared with yourself as well. At some point, you know, um, and if you're gonna blame anything, just blame the world itself, and just blame how cruel it is. And again, this is just me going back to, it doesn't have to be this way. The world doesn't have to be this way. The gods want you to think that it has to be this way, because maybe that's all the gods ever know, and that's why they are manipulating humans to do whatever it is that they're manipulating them to do, because they're kind of strictly beholden to, this is just the way the world is. And again, like, I will fight against that with my last dying breath, that it doesn't have to be that way. Anyway, going back to the song itself, what I really enjoyed a lot was when you entered into the underworld, it seems to be nothing but screaming souls. He says, like, I'm not dreaming anymore, I'm just having nightmares, and all the souls down here are screaming, and they're tortured, and they're angry or upset or whatever, distraught. But all except for Politus, like, as soon as you see him, he's like at peace. It seems like he's happy. It seems like he doesn't blame Odysseus for his death at all. And I just like how they specifically depicted him very differently from the rest of the souls that are in the underworld, which in some way, like, makes me happy, because yeah, it was terrible that Politus died so early on, but at least the man didn't have to suffer through everything else that was going on. Again, because we were talking about The Walking Dead in the last season, one of my favorite quotes from that show is, "Don't mourn the dead, mourn the living." Don't be sad for the dead, sad for those that got left behind. Which I think is holds really true. The part with his mom was beautiful. His mom also was the other person that wasn't like mourning, I would say. She was more waiting for him.
And she died waiting for him.
And she died waiting for him.
And that's actually
Yeah.
Jorge's mom.
Oh, is it really? That is so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that a lot. I don't mean for this to seem like a non sequitur, a departure, but because of this whole, she died waiting for him part, it reminds me of something that I read just last night before I went to bed. I was just going through my social media and I was reading Facebook, and I read something. I don't know why, it was just randomly on my Facebook feed about pet owners who have to put their pets ultimately to sleep. If they're sick and they have to be put down, they have to be put to sleep. And how the majority of owners who have pets choose to not be with their pet when they're being put to sleep, because it's for, they have their own reasons. For many of them, it's just they just can't handle it. They don't want to be in the same room as their pet while their pet dies. And veterinarians say that one of the hardest parts of their job is when they do have to put a pet down, but the owner chooses to not be with their own pet, which is, again, they respect them for choosing that for themselves, but the veterinarians do everything they can to make the pet comfortable. But the pets normally know what's happening, or even if they don't know what's happening, they're confused and they're looking around for their owner in their last moments, and they don't see their owner around. Like, they're not there for them when, quote unquote, they need them the most. And so I think the point of the article was, hey, like, ultimately you get to decide for yourself how you want to handle that situation. But if you want, it is a very nice gesture to be with your pet in their dying moments, because that's when they need you the most. Because it's hard for them to understand. You can't verbally explain to them what's happening or what's about to happen. So if you're able to just be with them and make sure that they know that you're there, either by touch or by seeing, that's a very good humane gesture to do, as difficult as it might be for the owner to have to go through that. That's again, that's you signed up for that. That's part of what it is to be a pet owner. So anyway, this whole idea that his mom died waiting for him kind of reminded me of that article that I read just last night. So sorry to be a downer for those of you who had to go through that situation and maybe chose not to be in the room when you put your pet to sleep. But I mean, as somebody who has never owned a pet other than fish or birds or rabbits, and I know that eventually my family does want to own a dog or a cat. That's something I'm at least going to remember and put into consideration when I sign up for that, when I sign up for owning a cat or a dog. So
Yeah, and one thing Jorge confirmed is that what the souls are singing are their last thoughts before dying.
Okay,
So like
got it.
the crew died blaming Odysseus for what happened. Politis died believing in his open arms philosophy, and his mom died waiting for him.
Yeah, yeah. I think that makes sense, and I guess once I'm in that situation, once I'm in death's door, I'd like to believe that I'm able to die with a certain mindset that's more towards politicus side of things. So, yeah, sounds good.
All right, so let's move on to "No Longer You" by Jimena Naxel.
Okay.
I am the prophet with the answers you seek. Time, I've unlocked it. I see past and future running free. There is a world where I help you get home, but that's not a world I know. What? I see a song of past romance brother's final stand. I see you on the brink of death. I see you try your final breath. I see a man who gets to make it home alive, but it's no longer you. This can't be. We've suffered and sailed through the toughest of hells. Now you tell us our efforts for nothing. I see your palace covered in red, faces of men who had long believed you're dead. I see your wife with a man who is haunting, a man with a trail of bodies. Ooh! I see a song of past romance. I see the sacrifice of man. I see portrayals of betrayal and a brother's final stand. I see you on the brink of death. I see you try your final breath. I see a man who gets to make it home alive, but it's no longer you.
So,
Well, this pretty much reinforces what I said before about how, with everything that Odysseus is going through, when is he finally going to break? When is he finally going to snap? And essentially turn into a completely new person, basically. Like, that's sort of what I was implying. Like, I think because of how cruel and how tragic the world is, even someone who I think is a relatively good person, a relatively nice person, can easily just transform into someone completely different. And unfortunately, it seems like it's going to be for the worst, not for the better. So it's a little bit it's very tragic, and this is something that is interesting when you have characters who can see the future. Are these characters able to see a future that is completely fated? Like, there's nothing you can do, no matter what the person does, even if they're aware of what the prophecy is. Are they doomed to that fate regardless, or is the reason why a person is being told what the seer sees is because they could change it if they wanted to, and that fate is not set in stone, and you still have things that you can do? And it's obviously it depends on the story. In some stories, it's no matter what you do, it's going to go down this route. But in many others, there is still like a hope that there is a chance that you can change things and you can turn things around. And I think that if you have somebody who knows that they have this gift of foresight, if I put myself into a situation and I had this ability to see into the future, and I knew that it was fated, like nothing, this is a set point in time, nothing that you do is going to change it, I think that comes with a very specific responsibility. And by that I mean, just because you see it doesn't mean you have to say it to the person. Doesn't mean you have to tell the person. Or if you do tell the person, make sure that you warn them, hey, this is not going to help you. If I tell you it's not going to help you, it could even make things worse. Because if I tell you something and I know for a fact you can't change it, you're just going to be suffering the whole time. Like, like, so why it is not a mercy for me to say this to you. So this is sort of like the issue that I have with this particular, like, what they call him, prophet. The
Prophet?
issue that I have about this prophet, at least the way that the song is being portrayed and the way that things are showing in the animatics, is Odysseus just literally just walked up to him, like, and as soon as he gets up to the prophet, he's just telling him everything that he sees, like, with no filter whatsoever. He's like, "Hey, dude, I foresaw that you're coming to ask me for guidance, so I'm gonna just tell you everything." So, and I feel like, no, don't tell the man everything. Wait for him to ask you, like, what he wants to know. Like, if I had somebody coming to me, and again, I could see the future, regardless of whether you could change it or not, I would only tell them enough to help them. I would only say the things they needed to know to their benefit. If there's anything that I would tell them that would not help them at all, I would shut up. So that's the issue that I have with this particular prophet, is I think he told him too much. Like, I think it was irresponsible of the prophet to tell him what he needed to say, because how is that going to help him? Like, what that you basically just took this man, even if he was doomed to turn into someone that was no longer him. Like, why make that journey worse for him by giving him that knowledge? So that's my issue. The song itself is beautiful, though. Like, I love the way that the animatics, of course, portrays it. The guy's voice, it sounds like Jorge, but I guess it's not Jorge.
It's not.
It's very similar tone. And I just feel bad. I just feel bad because I think that it's one of those things where you feel like, if you were in Odysseus' shoes, then why bother? Why bother being a good person anymore? If this is just my future. It's sort of like in Wicked. I know I mentioned Wicked before. Have you seen the movie or seen the show Wicked?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I spoil very, very mild spoilers for the second act, and it's not really a spoiler if you've seen The Wizard of Oz, because in The Wizard of Oz, you know what the Wicked Witch does in The Wizard of Oz. But there comes a point where Elphaba, the witch, sings the song "No Good Deed Goes Unpunished," and basically the theme is, hey, I've been such a nice person this whole time, and what has it gotten me? Like, nothing but tragedy. Like, no matter what I do, no matter how good I try to be, no matter how much I try to take the high road, no matter how much I try to be selfless and be forgiving and be empathy, everyone just sees me as a monster. Everyone sees me as evil. Everyone sees me as wicked. So what's the point? What's the point in fighting it anymore? And I think it's such a tragic moment in the story, and so this is why I hate moments in a storyline like this, because you just feel like, just give the guy a break. Like, it's why do nice guys have to finish last? Like, why?
Right.
What's the lesson you're trying to teach here? Because I don't think it's a lesson that's, at the end of the day, that practically useful. So, but anyway, that's just my hot take on it.
Right. And this is foreshadowing the song.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kind of, I feel like he didn't say that much as you're saying. I don't know, because I feel like he implied more than said stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we can kind of disagree on that.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. And one thing is that in this part, let me see. A little bit. You hear the choir?
Yeah, I can hear the choir. Yeah.
That choir is saying things.
Yeah, I couldn't make out what the choir was saying.
I won't tell you.
You don't have to tell me. That's fine. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, they're big spoilers, so
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fine. Cool.
Alright, let's move on.
Oh, here we go.
So this is Monster by
Monster. Mm-hmm.
Gigi.
Okay.
How has everything been turned against us? How did suffering become so endless? How am I to reunite with my estranged? Do I need to change? I'm surrounded by the souls of those I've lost. I'm the only one whose line I haven't crossed. What if the greatest threat we'll find across the sea is me? What if I'm the monster? What if I'm in the wrong? What if I'm the problem that's been hiding all along? What if I'm the one who killed you every time I cave to guilt? What if I've been far too kind to foes, but a monster to ourselves? What if I'm the monster? Is the Cyclops struck with guilt when he kills? Is he up in the middle of the night? Or does he end my men to avenge his friend and then sleep knowing he has done him right? When the witch turns men to pigs to protect her nymphs, is she going insane? Or did she learn to be colder when she got older and now she saves them the pain? When a god comes down and makes a fleet drown, is he scared that he's doing something wrong? Or does he keep us in check so we must respect him and now no one dares to piss him off? Does a soldier use a wooden horse to kill sleeping Trojans cause he is vile? Or does he throw away his remorse and save more lives with guile? If I became the monster and threw that guilt away, would that make us stronger? Would it keep our foes at bay? If I became the monster to everyone but us and made sure we got home again, who would care if we're unjust? If I became the oh, ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. And deep down I know this well. I lost my best friend, I lost my mentor, my mom, 500 men gone. This can't go on, I must get to see Penelope and Telemachus. So if we must sail through dangerous oceans and beaches, I'll go where Poseidon won't reach us. And if I gotta drop another infant from a wall in an instant so we all don't die, then I'll become the monster. I will deal the blow, and I'll become the monster like none they've ever known. So what if I'm the monster lurking deep below? I must become the monster, and then we'll make it whole. Penelope. I'll become the monster.
My first response to Odysseus, if I were to respond to him, is if you're a monster, then so was Politus. And I could even argue Politus would have been a greater monster than you, because I think he was basically a really nice guy, like Odysseus was at the beginning of the story, but probably more so. I could argue a little bit more so. So I guess that so if he considers himself a monster, then what are you calling Politus then? So that's my biggest thing for him if I was to ask him to think about stuff. But I also get it too, because as much as I hate it, this is the unfortunate game that he has to play. This is the world that he's in. These are the cards that he's given. What's more important to getting being what he thinks is just, and keeping his integrity, or getting his men home. Like, what's what's more important here? And I, it's a difficult thing to. It's a very, very difficult question to answer, and I have no one to blame but the world and the gods themselves, because this is essentially the type of world that I'm gonna say the gods kind of created. Um, so I don't blame at all Odysseus taking this step and sort of transforming, because everything that's happened to him upon like up to this point has just like beaten into his head. No, you're fighting this, but the more you fight this, the more you're gonna suffer. So just give in. Um, I would argue that this doesn't make him a monster. It just makes him an anomaly in a world that rejects a person of his ideals. And I find that very unfortunate and very tragic, because, again, I don't think the world has to be that way. And I think that it's it makes a lot of logical sense. As far as the song itself, it's powerful. I love the chorus, the choir that sings. Obviously, it's taking verses and tunes from the first song of the first epic. When does a man become a monster? And I would assume it sets things up very, very well for the end of this act and the beginning of the second act. So, yeah.
So with this song, we've wrapped up the Underworld saga and Act 1 of Epic. So, what do you think
It
about it?
it's depressing but predictable. Like, I'm not surprised that we got to this point. Um, if this is how the first act closes and sets up the beginning of Act Two, I can imagine myself just feeling a little shooken up, maybe a little like distraught or like depressed. I wouldn't say I'm depressed, but unhopeful, I guess, because I feel like our protagonist is now going to be turning into a character that I might not enjoy watching as much. I think that's the biggest fear I have um, with these kinds of situations, because I much prefer when the opposite happens. If you have this protagonist who is quote unquote not the nicest person, not the greatest person, but because of circumstances they become a better person and they grow into a better person. And for me, those are the types of stories that I like more, as opposed to the opposite, where you take somebody who's really a nice enough person, and then because of these circumstances they turn into a monster and things go. And it's not because I blame them or I'm angry or upset at them, because everything that happens to them makes total sense as to why they go down this road. It's not a type of storyline that I personally seek out for myself, but you know, it is what it is. So, yeah. How about you? What do you think of this epic,
This saga,
or this
it's
saga? Excuse me.
painful.
Yeah.
Just seeing Odysseus, like, it's interesting because literally Odysseus drops an infant from a tower
Yeah.
in the second song, but we
Yes.
still root for him. Like, Jorge did such a good job of developing
Yes.
Odysseus that even though he did that horrible thing, he had reasons. And we can tell
Yeah.
that he doesn't drop infants off
Yeah.
walls like on a daily basis. And that he's a good person. And seeing this journey of him
Yeah.
slowly becoming a monster,
Mm-hmm.
just it's just wow. Like
Yeah.
I got chills and I feel like crying right now, like experiencing this for the
Yeah.
first time alongside with you.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking. I think this is why recently they make a lot of movies um, based on villains, and they kind of show how does this person become a villain. Like I just talked about Wicked, they have Maleficent, and they have Cruella de Vil. There's like all of these, especially Disney does this a lot. Like how did this person become a villain? And some of them, are better than others. Um, but I do think that to the show and to the story's credit, it makes sense. Like they didn't just jump from being a relatively good person to being a monster. And you sympathize, and I mean, I would still root for him because I want better for this person. I want justice because I don't think what's happening to him is really just. He's just getting hit left and right. His only win per se is the Cersei scene, but that's it. Everything else is just one thing right after the other, and I think that's why a lot of people tend to get tired of certain shows like The Walking Dead, for example, because it can just be too much to the point where okay, you got to let the our heroes win sometimes. I think the part again, like if for people who don't watch The Walking Dead and hope to see it soon, hope I apologize for being a little spoilerish, but when you get to Negan, there's an infamous character in the show called named Negan, and a lot of a lot of fans stopped watching the show because of that arc because it felt like it was just too much. Like it was just not enough. It's fine for it to be tragic at times, but when it gets really excessive, it's very tiring and not really entertaining anymore. It's more like torture. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, just watching these
Why are
poor
you
people
doing this to your
suffering.
fans?
Like, why are you doing this to your fans? And so I'm kind of feeling that with the Odyssey, um, and it's something that I fear for myself, and just like the prophet, I think it's inevitable. I don't think sure I can fear it all I want, but I think no matter what, it's gonna happen. It's fated, so I just have to suck it up and prepare for it. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like watching it. I kind of like gradually got myself into this because I listened to the music before, barely understanding what was happening,
What's
and
happening?
then I watched the animatics. So like
Yeah,
it wasn't as harsh for me, but it still was like, oh
yeah,
no, Odysseus, please don't do this.
yeah,
Don't let them get to you, but they got to him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Any other questions about
What was your
this or
favorite
any of
song
the
of
act
this saga?
from this saga? Um, the first one, just because I liked how they pull from the previous songs. It's nice to sort of get that reminder,
Mm-hmm.
and just wraps up the end of the first act so well. It's of course very refreshing to hear Politis' voice again. So yeah, easily I would say that was my favorite part, and of course the singing with the mom, especially now knowing that it's Jorge's mom, which
Mm-hmm.
is really cool. I like that a lot. Um, I kind of wish that we got to see a little bit more of the underworld, to be perfectly honest, because it's a very I don't know, it's just a really cool and interesting realm in Greek mythology, and I don't think that he was meant to meet Hades himself or anything like that. That's not part of the story. But I kind of wish that we stayed a little bit longer, but maybe it doesn't really make sense to do that in the story. So yeah.
Yeah, my favorite song is Monster. I just
Mm,
love it
yeah.
so much. It's so well
Yeah.
done, and Gigi's cinematic does it justice, but
Yeah,
it
I agree.
feels so heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and what was your favorite song from this act?
I'm gonna say it's still Hermes' song. I think that's the one that I'm going to remember. The second one is going to be the first song between Odysseus and Athena. I forgot what that one was called.
Warrior of the
But
Mind.
yes, yes. So those are my top two, and I think if I had to choose a third, it would be the very first song of the act, the
Yeah,
very first song of the show. That would be my third
I
favorite.
see.
So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, my top
maybe.
three would be Open Arms,
Okay,
Wouldn't You Like, and Monster.
okay. Maybe one of these days I'll record myself doing a cover of Hermes' song. We'll see. I think that would be fun to
That would
do.
be really
That would be
fun.
really neat. We'll see if I can pull it off. I think it's in my range. Though I think it's a song where it's in my range, but I'm very self-critical
Hmm.
about the tone of my voice because I don't think it's as, you know, I can hit the notes and I can sing in tune, but I think that the character or the tone of my voice, for me at least, in my opinion, is not as nice as like some of the more professional or refined singers out there. But I probably should give myself a little bit of slack because I've never been trained. I've never trained myself as a singer. I just did a lot of choir and music theater throughout the years. So, but anyway, any other question? Last final questions before we close this first act.
No, just a fun fact. So
Okay.
Jorge got his mom to sing in a musical, and actually another relationship that Jorge has with the cast member is that Cersei is his girlfriend.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and they
I
met
like that.
thanks to the project. Like it's not like she was his
Nice.
girlfriend before he started all this and he got her to play. No, she auditioned and they met
Yeah.
and they fell in love.
Oh, that's so cool. That
It
is neat.
is.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's super sweet. Very cool fun fact. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
All right. So is the first act longer or shorter than the second act?
I haven't. I no idea.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm just curious because the second act has less uh
It
has
has
less
less sagas,
sagas.
but each saga
Yes.
has 5 songs.
And how many sagas are in the second one? It was four, right? Four sagas?
There's
Because I believe the first act is five.
yeah, the
And I
first
think the
act is
second act.
5, but some sagas have less songs.
Yeah.
Like Cersei had only 3, no 4, and the Underworld had only
Had
3.
only three. Okay.
But in the second act, there are only 4 sagas, but each one has 5 songs.
Okay. So they're probably about the same.
Hmm.
Comparably the same. Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, we're halfway through. So thank you again, Alexandra, for being a gracious guide and host for this. Thank you to everybody who's watching. I hope you all are enjoying or at least mildly entertained by our reactions and our discussions. Maybe you've learned a thing or two, or perhaps considered something or thought about something that you've never thought about or considered before. I don't know. But share your thoughts on the first act or what your favorite songs are in the comments below. It's always awesome to hear from all of you about those kind of things. Um, and yeah, looking forward to starting the second act with our next video. So until then, everyone, love yourselves.
And love each other.
Bye bye.